Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of issues that are going on in the state of Philly sports. And instead of just tackling things one by one, I wanted to come on here and just express all my frustrations with all four teams because I have problems even with the Flyers and just with how things have been going with all four of these organizations. We'll talk about it. We'll dissect things one by one in just a little bit. But here we go. Enjoy the show.
Graduated from Rowan University in the spring of 2022 with a sports communication and media degree. I got to actually call minor league baseball and G League basketball games while I was in school. And then I graduated, and as soon as I graduated, I went to NFL Films in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And as much as I loved that experience, I miss putting on the headsets. I decided, you know what, talk is cheap. I have a laptop that's in my house, and so 21 months later, here we are, still on YouTube, calling games and building an incredible, loving community on here with the people that I call my Philly freaks with a capital P and a capital H. We go live for every single Phillies, Sixers, and Eagles game, and we do it like old school radio play-by-play style. I'm Jason Joseph, and this is Play-by-Play with JJ.
Shota swung on, barreled out to right field. Bye-bye baseball.
That baby is long gone.
Welcome aboard, everybody. My name is Jason Joseph. This is Play-by-Play with JJ. We're doing something a little bit different, though, today. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button as well. Turn on those notification bell icons, too, and that way you'll know when I go live or when I post a podcast. Again, today is just one of those days where I'm not doing anything, and a lot of things have been on my mind with all four of the Philly teams, and I want to just unravel things that have been on my mind for a little bit of time and just sort of get your thoughts on where you think each team stands. And I think that the first place to start off with is by talking about the Philadelphia Flyers. Okay, so we expected a rebuild. Okay, we knew that this team was going to have problems. And we didn't expect them to have a really good start, but we expected them to play competitive hockey, and we have not gotten that at all whatsoever. Now, they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes now are on a 7-game winning streak, and the Hurricanes are playing really, really good ice hockey, led by Seth Jarvis, of course, because he's just an incredible player. I think he has 4 goals on the season. He's been doing a really, really good job. The thing that I find that is just unacceptable, though, with this team, as I want to get my graphic up here, I apologize about that. The thing that I find really bad about this team so far is that they are just not getting good shots off. They're not getting a lot of shots off, period. But this team, I'm going to read you the game log over these last 10 games, okay? They are 4-8-1 on the season. They're in dead last, okay? They actually, as of now, according to a lot of hockey websites, they have the best odds for getting the number 1 draft pick next year. And a lot of people are talking about them tanking and trying to get that number 1 pick. But I don't know, man. But I'm just going to read you the game log over these last 10 games. Okay. You lose to Seattle 6-4. You lose to Vancouver 3-0. You lose to Washington for the first time 4-1. You lose again to Washington 6-3, right? And then you beat you end up beating Minnesota 7-5. You lose to Montreal 4-3. You then shut out Boston in Boston 2-0. And then you win against St. Louis back at home 2-1. Then you lose to Boston and get shut out 3-0, and you come up empty last night and you lose to the Carolina Hurricanes 6-4. And what do I mean by empty? Well, six shots in the last 40 minutes of play. That's unacceptable. That's really unacceptable, even against a Carolina team who's been really good this season. They really have. They've had a very, very good season. But they're 3-7-0 over their last 10 games, and they've scored 28 goals on a total of 224 shots and have allowed 38 goals on 277 shots. That means that during this stretch, opponents are getting close to 4 goals per game on about 28 shot attempts. And the Flyers themselves are only getting 3 goals a game on 22 shots. That, to me, is unacceptable. And in 3 of those 10 games, the Flyers have had under 20 shots. And they've gotten shut out in 2 of those other games. I mean, I really am just so disappointed with how John Tortorella has coached this team. And I think that it's time to put John on the hot seat. I know that it's early. I understand that. I don't think that they're a last place team. I don't think that they're as bad as San Jose. However, it is really just awful with the way that they've been playing hockey out there every single night. Okay? They are, and this is according to a Charlie O'Connor, by the way. This was a really interesting stat that I was listening to on PHLY Flyers. With shots on goal per 60 minutes, they're ranked 30th. And on shot attempts per 60, they ranked 31st. They've also had 6 periods this season with 3 shots on goal. It's not fun. Watching a rebuild is not fun, and I did not expect it to be this poor. I know that they have a lot of young talent, and I've been very happy with how Michkov has played overall. I also understand that, obviously, you're missing a couple of key pieces, right? You are. You're missing a couple of pieces. Sam Ersson is obviously out, and I want to get into Sam Ersson as well and talk a little bit about him. You're missing Cam York, and you're missing Ryan Poehling as well. I understand that, but with the way that things have been going, it's just totally unbelievable to me that right now they are favorited to get the first overall pick. It's just really crazy to me. And I think that John Tortorella has really lost the locker room, and it's time for a change in philosophy right now. He's not a rebuild coach. It's not good in that sort of regard. And I want a change. That's what I want, man. That's really what I want. Now, I wanted to also sort of get into this whole goalie conversation as well, because some people are saying, well, goaltending has really been a big issue as well, and we're not just focusing on shot creation. It's more so about who's in the net as well. Ersson hasn't been terrible. They're 4-2-1 with him in the net. And obviously, he ended up getting hurt in the last game against the Boston Bruins, and that was a bad injury. I don't know how long he's out for. I haven't done my research on that. But I've been hearing some names that have been thrown around the trade block, and I'd be interested to see if the Flyers do indeed go after a netminder. I don't know. I really don't know what they should do. I know that Sam Ersson is not a Henrik Lundqvist. I mean, he's just not. He's not that special of a talent. He's been giving you okay play, serviceable amount of really good play, but it hasn't been consistent. And I just am really disappointed with how things have shaped from the netminder position. And I'd be interested. I've been hearing about Tristan Jarry, being a candidate of being traded from the Pittsburgh Penguins. I know that he's older. I understand that, but and he hasn't really had a good season. but maybe a change of scenery could help him. I don't know. I don't know what the Flyers definitely have assets that I'd be interested to see what they would give up for a guy like him. And I wonder what his market would be. But the other guy that I've been sort of intrigued by has been Mackenzie Blackwood. Now, for some reason, every time we face Mackenzie Blackwood, he tends to dominate against us, and he does a really, really good job. Next year he's going to be 27 years old, and the Sharks are terrible. The Sharks are really, really bad. But he's somebody that, yes, he is going to be an unrestricted free agent next year, and that's something that you sort of have to think about as well. But is it worth going after him? Is it worth going after any other netminder? The other one that I've been thinking about a lot too that's been thrown around the hockey world is John Gibson. A guy that's older, he's 31 years old. He's definitely declined, that's for sure. But is it worth taking the risk and going after somebody like him? I don't know. I'm just spitballing and I'm throwing names out there. Or do we just try to find one in the draft? I really don't know. But I think that the goalie problem has been an issue for a little bit of time, and I'm ready to try to address that. But I also understand too that we just have not been able to get off a lot of shots, and that's really concerning. I did not expect early on so far in this season that creating shots was going to be an issue. I did not expect that at all whatsoever. And I'm going to get to your thoughts in just a few moments. But my question to you is, do you think that John Tortorella is the right coach for this rebuild? Yes or no? Please comment down below because I'd really, really like to hear your thoughts about that. Okay. There was one other thing I wanted to say about the Flyers too, and I forget what it was. I'm just really bothered with how much of a lack of urgency they've played with. And just see them at the bottom of the standings. It's not fun. I don't like watching tanking, okay? I've watched the Sixers tank for years. And those years were not fun to watch. All those losing years, I can't get behind it. I can't get behind it. Sure, they got Joel Embiid out of it, but they also had so many other draft picks. And it was just like, well, we're going to stink. And then we're going to try to be really, really good. And it never worked out that way. And I never thought that was a good philosophy for an organization. And for the Flyers, it's just really not fun. I've been very underwhelmed with this season so far. And it just has not gotten my juices going. And it's disappointing to me because I expected that. I knew that this was going to be a rebuild. And I understood that things were going to take time in order for things to gel. But I've just been very disappointed overall. And I also have really been, and I didn't even talk about this, but the power play has been so bad. It's been so bad this year. And if we do go after somebody at the deadline, I haven't looked into who specifically would be a good candidate on the trade block that's really good on the power play, but I'd be interested in looking in that area as well. But let me know down below if you think that John Tortorella is the correct head coach during this rebuild era. Okay, that's what I want to hear down below. I want to get to some comments, and then we're going to go into the next topic and talk about the Sixers. Okay, also doesn't help that the Carter Hart stuff happened. Absolutely. No, that's a really, really good point, man. You definitely bring a lot of facts right there because that was a big setback. It really, really was. It's ugly hockey too. It is they're not putting out a good product out there. And again, you expected things to be very sloppy. You expected, I didn't think that they were going to go out there and have the best power play this year, but I expected them to, show more fight in some of these games. And I really haven't seen a lot of that at times. And I'm watching some of these games where they're just not putting up a lot of shots. And they're just having a hard time at getting it out of their zone. How can I feel good about that? There's no sort of direction, man. And that's that's really the whole thing that really does bug me. I don't know. I'm not watching the Flyers or Sixers, but I do pay attention a little bit to the ESPN. Hello, I missed you. Sorry that I haven't been on here in a while. What's up, Ladybug? How you doing? But I've been extremely busy and working a lot of overtime, working at nursing homes. I appreciate you for coming on here. I really, really do. That's Jackie. Jackie, what's going on, Jackie? I recognize your profile. You're good people. You're amazing, and I appreciate you, and thank you for everything and for making me a moderator, of course. Of course. Yeah, no problem. I don't think the Flyers are going to trade for anyone, though. Yeah, I don't know. Like, Danny Briere is going to have to try to be creative. I don't think that you can stand still on how things have been going so far. And look, I understand that we've only played, 12 games so far, or sorry, 14 games so far, 13 games. But I have a lot of red alerts going around for this Flyers team, and just I'm not really happy with how things are going. But yeah, volume is much louder. It's perfect. I know what you did, or you brought new equipment, but it's all good, and I like it. Good stuff. Yeah, so that's all I got to say about the Flyers right now. Very, very disappointed. And again, the Hurricanes have been playing really good hockey, but 6 shots over the last 40 minutes of that game. It's terrible. Well, I mean, like, what else is there to say? Sure, Alexei comes on in, and it's like, yeah, he has to take over for Urson, and he gave up 2 goals in that game against Boston. But the next game, I mean, he had 29 saves on 34 attempts and allowed 5 goals. It's just like they just don't have anybody in the system that can really be a top-tier goalie, and that to me is really, really concerning. And I know that we've played a lot of years without a really good netminder, but it just sucks. It sucks being in this hole again. It really does. So that's something that has really annoyed me. And sure, the kid's 22 years old. He's young, and to throw him into the fire like that's a lot, but it's just tough. It's really, really annoying. And I wanted to just come on here and talk about that first and foremost because I thought that was a really good place to start. Now I want to get into another team that's been really making me frustrated, and I found out more news about them today that has really not made me feel good at all whatsoever. So let's get into that right now as I change my thing over here. All right. So first and foremost, right? Whoops. Sorry about that. I forgot I downloaded the wrong one. Joel Embiid suspension. Okay. I wanted to go back really quickly, and I wanted to retweak, if that's even a word, what I said about Joel Embiid. Okay. I don't condone, I don't think that people should, have a right to assault somebody or push somebody, even like when it comes to family. I just feel like that Joel has to stand up for himself somehow, some way, and he can do that with words. But my issue is that he has to look out for his team. He has to look out for his team. He has to look out for his teammates. He has to be a leader. That, to me, right there, what he did, shoving and pushing Marcus Hayes, is immature. And you have to know better. You have to understand what the heck is going on, and the fact that you're not even playing, and you just, after the game, for some reason, you're in the locker room. I don't know how the PR staff even allowed him to get a post-game press conference or anything like that. He was probably, I'm sure that he was furious with what Marcus Hayes said and everything like that, and I'm sure that that's why he was there. He wanted to confront him, but there's ways to handle that business, okay? And I did not think that it was correct for Joel to do that. However, he has to stand up for himself, and there's other ways that you can do that, not by physically assaulting somebody or doing anything like that. I'm actually surprised that he only got suspended for 3 games. So that's my take about that. It's just unfortunate with how things have been going for him this season. Just not being able to play, And just watching this product out there, I'm not happy about that either. Been very, very underwhelmed with the Sixers, and it's just like, well, I don't know if their season's even going to start until maybe December. And even still, like, you're digging yourself into a deeper hole, and you're setting yourself up for failure. The way that things go is that you have to develop team chemistry. That's how it goes in all of sports. If you look at the history of the NBA, let's go back to just recent history. Okay, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, they all played together, and they went through a lot of growing pains. They spent seasons together. They lost to the Spurs, if I remember correctly, I think it was back in like 2011, 2012. They had to go through losing together in order for them to be great. And they even had to deal with losing to the Cavs again, or for the first time, in the 2015-2016 season. And then they ended up getting Kevin Durant. But my point is that even when you look at the San Antonio Spurs big three with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Tim Duncan, it took them a little bit of time for them to gel. It took LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh a lot of time to gel. I don't know if anybody remembers, but they started off really bad in that 0-10 to 11 season. They did. They did not have a good start at all whatsoever during that year, and they ended up losing in the finals. But then they bounced back the next year after that. They got really good shooters. They got veterans and all that sort of stuff. But my point is that you don't build the team to the fullest if you don't have the chemistry. And my issue is that they have not had any reps with all three of them out there. And if we're going to have a season like that where they only play like 15 games together, you're not just going to be able to figure it out in the playoffs. Look at what happened with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. How did that work out? How about James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi? How did that work out? What about I'm trying to think of like somebody else that's thrown it together. What about Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, what about Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal? How did that work out? Just throwing all three of those guys together. Not so well. So that's my issue with the whole Joel Embiid thing, is that you have to look out for your team. You have to put the team first. And while I understand that somebody went after your family, like I don't condone that at all whatsoever, but you have to be smart about how you deal with things. You have to. That's the truth. So I sort of wanted to just retool what I said before, because I think that Marcus Hayes was in the wrong, the very wrong, and I think that Joel Embiid has to be better, and that he was in the wrong too. You got to stick up for yourself. You got to defend yourself. At the same time, though, you got to put the eye. You can't put the eye on the team. You have to look out for the team, because your team needs you out there, and you haven't even played. So get yourself back out there on the court, big guy. And now you got to take these 3 games suspend, or I don't know how that's going to work. Hopefully he's back by Tuesday, though. Next Tuesday, that'd be great. And then we also heard about this earlier today. It was reported from Shams Charania that Tyrese Maxey, who injured himself last night, is going to be out for a few weeks. And that does not make me happy at all whatsoever. This team is cursed. This team frustrates me. And it's just so annoying because even 2 of our 3 superstars now are hurt. I mean, like all 3 of them really are, but I don't understand. I don't understand what happened in the past life for us to be able to go through all these things. But now that Tyrese Maxey is going to be sidelined for a couple of weeks with a right hamstring injury, that's what they're calling it according to Shams Charania, I don't feel good. I'm so annoyed. How many games are we going to win, even with Paul George out there? And even PG is sort of getting back into his groove. It's just not fun. Are they going to actually beat the LA Lakers? I don't think so. Are they going to beat the Charlotte Hornets? Honestly, I have doubts. I do. I have doubts that they're even going to beat the Charlotte Hornets on Sunday. And I hate to be this negative Nancy type of a person. I really do. It feels so uncomfortable for me to feel this way. But I think it's going to be a long shot for them to even win those next two games, these next two games coming up. And I don't feel good about that. So Tyrese Maxey's going to miss a little bit of time. Maxey, of course, averaging about 27.6 points per game, averaging 39.7 minutes per game as well. That's a big piece of your offense, and that's a big loss. And it makes me even more annoyed because our head coach has actually turned into Doc Rivers for some reason and just thinks that it's totally fine to put Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry out there and have them play a combined 38 minutes and get you only 1 point and over 5 turnovers. Over 5 combined. So now I have to see more of that because now it's legit that Tyrese Maxey is going to miss a lot of time. What I will say, though, is that maybe a silver lining sort of comes out of this, and maybe we do see more of Jared McCain. I pray to the basketball gods that Nick Nurse says, here you go, Jared. We need you now. I'm not saying that he can solve everybody's answers, but I think that would be maybe a positive that sort of comes out of this. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. Maybe I'm just trying to find something to be a little bit optimistic about. But losing Tyrese Maxey is big, and they're going to be very cautious. The medical staff again lied to us. They said that they took him out of the game last night because it was precautionary. And I actually wanted to retract and say that I'm sorry that I didn't know that Tyrese Maxey got hurt in the fourth quarter of last night's game. I would have never made those comments about waving the white flag for Nick Nurse if I would have known that. Okay, so I do have to apologize there. I didn't know that he was taken out because of his of his soft tissue and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, it's annoying. I'm very frustrated with the Sixers as well. I haven't been getting what I wanted at all this season. And I hate to sort of look ahead, but now I kind of have to wonder. Part of me wonders, are they even going to make it into the playoffs? Part of me wonders that. I'm not fully there yet, but part of me does wonder because it does not look good. So those are my things about the Sixers. I want to hear what you guys have to say. And now Maxey is out. Will this team ever be healthy? Says Denbro. I don't know. I really, really don't know. And that's the scary thing about it, is that there's so many unknowns. I was listening to Halftime's rant last night, and Halftime, shout out to him. Shout out to him. He said that the Sixers are going to have to try to find a way to trade for another superstar. And they're going to have to try to, they're going to have to try to get better and get a fourth person out there. And while I don't disagree with that take, I just don't know how many I don't know how many organizations are like the Tennessee Titans where they would just give away A.J. Brown for a bag of chips. I don't know. Yes, there's probably some organizations out there I'd be interested in exploring, but I mean, You really can't give up that. You don't really have much to give up. I mean, you do have draft assets that you can give up. You have 10 draft picks over the next couple of years. Over the next 4 years. But there's only so much that you can do. And I don't know. I'm very, very frustrated with them. So, but yeah. All right. Next man up, the Birds. Okay. Let's get into the Eagles. Okay. My first question to ask you about the Eagles is this. Can the Eagles win in the playoffs with Nick Sirianni as head coach? Give me a yes or a no down below. I think that they would be lucky to win one playoff game with Nick Sirianni as the head coach. I learned a lot about Nick Sirianni in the very, very last game. And I've known a lot about him before. The issue that I have is that while it is a game of analytics and the people above tell you if you should go for it or not on fourth down, do you take the 3 in certain situations? At the end of the day, who co-signs on that? He does. In sports, how it goes in sports is if you sign on the dotted line, if you agree to do something and it doesn't work, you got to take accountability. I still believe that in a lot of those situations, while the tush-push has been effective this season, I think that you really have to try to be smart about it, and you have to try to rely on Jake Elliott when you can. You're up 16-0. Why go for the 2? If you take the extra point, you're up by 3 possessions. To me, that's not rocket science, and that makes it a different ball game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, to me, I just have not agreed with a lot of the decisions that he's made out there on offense. And Jeffrey Lurie's not going to fire him. Jeffrey Lurie's not going to get rid of him. Why would he do that? That's just not in his DNA. It's not. He's not going to do it during the middle of the season. And do you think that could come back and bite the Eagles? I really do. I do. I think that could be a big Achilles heel for the Birds. If Nick Sirianni's on this team and they're in the playoffs, I have a hard time seeing them win one playoff game. It doesn't matter who they play. Doesn't matter. I think that this team has a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong. But it's a game of inches in football. It is. And sometimes it comes down to the very last play of the game. And that is where coaching does matter. So let's just say it's 28-28 and the Eagles are putting up a game-winning drive and they're at their own 12. And for some reason they go for it on fourth down. They're at their opponent's 12-yard line. They're in the red zone. Sirianni goes for it there. And it goes into overtime. I could see Sirianni doing something like that. Just going for the 6 and not going for the 3. I could see him making really bad mistakes like that. And that could be really costly. And that scares me. It scares me. It really does. So, my question to you is, can the Eagles win in the playoffs with Nick Sirianni at the helm? My answer right now is no. My other question to ask you is, are you mad or happy that the Eagles stayed put right at the trade deadline? Because to me, I understand how he must have known that it was going to take a lot to get a really good pass rusher like Max Crosby and Myles Garrett. He must have known that. I look at the Commanders, though. I see them get Marshawn Lattimore. And while Marshawn's older, still was a really good CB. Still was a really good defensive back out there. So they got better. Looking at some of these other teams, and I'm like, well, damn, they got better too. You know? So do I think that the Eagles could have made a couple of moves? Yeah. I think that they could have tried to do some little things. I would have been interested in trying to go after another defensive lineman. I think that we're pretty good at cornerback and nickel and that type of a thing, but I would have tried to go after another defensive lineman or even an offensive lineman as well, because you can never have too many good guys on the O-line or battling through the trenches. So, but yeah, how do you feel about that? Comment down below. Yeah, let's get into your comments about the Eagles. Okay. It will cost us. They jumped the shark being aggressive. Yeah, I agree. The boy Sixers, as of right now, no. As of right now, you don't think that David doesn't think that Coach Sirianni will cost the Eagles in the playoffs. Doesn't think that you don't think, you say that can the Eagles win in the playoffs with Coach Sirianni? David says as of right now, no. He doesn't think that they can win a playoff game with Nick Sirianni. Yeah, I agree. Sirianni will cost us at some point in January. They don't think that this is a Super Bowl team. They told us that by standing still at the trade deadline. I think that they have talent, though. And the one other thing I wanted to talk about, thanks, Lou, for reminding me about this, is I'm a little bit concerned about how many touches Saquon Barkley is getting. And while you have to rely on him to be sort of your number one option, I think that Jalen Hurts throwing less is more for Jalen. Like, you get better production, you get a lesser amount of turnovers. I just worry about his health. I worry about Saquon's health. And I think that in some cases, they have to sort of pick their spots on when they do decide to run with Saquon. I think that they have to be a little bit more cautious about that as the weeks go by. Because if he's gone, if he gets hurt, honestly, it's going to be tough for the Eagles to even make it into the playoffs. I really do believe that. Now, the good news is that A.J. Brown is coming back. Supposed to come back this week. You're going to get Dallas Goedert back soon. Does that mean that Jalen's going to go to the air a little bit more? I think so. I do. I think that Jalen will do a very good job, trying to get those guys involved. And you still have Devontae Smith out there as a weapon. Grant Calcaterra has been a really, really nice tight end, by the way. I like how Kellen Moore has utilized him in their offensive schemes. And I hope that even when Dallas Goedert returns, that they actually have some creativity with two tight end plays out there. Because I think that he can do some really good things. But if you're just going to rely on Saquon all the time to run the ball, he's going to get hurt more likely. Chances are. So that's just something that I'm sort of keeping in the back of my mind as the weeks come and as we get more, into playing some of these really, really good top teams like the Baltimore Ravens and stuff like that. So just sort of keeping that on the back of my head. Howie didn't need to make a move at the trade deadline, says David. I mean, you can always get better. You can always get better. Maybe it didn't have to be for, a blockbuster type of a deal, but it never hurts to add depth, especially in the NFL. You never know when guys are going to get hurt. It's just always good to have backup, man. That's how it goes. Lattimore doesn't help this team. Our cornerbacks are playing really well right now. Well, the one point that the one thing to your point is that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, every time they go up against Marshawn, or every time they go up against Lattimore. They do a good job against him. But it's like a good comparison is like Rudy Gobert, right? Like Rudy Gobert in the NBA world is looked upon as this top defensive center in the league, but every time Joel Embiid goes up against him, he puts up a double-double. He just does. So I think that Marshawn is still sort of like a name, but he's not bad. He's not terrible, but he makes them better. But I don't know if he moves the needle like that in their corner. So there hasn't been a trade midseason that actually helped them since Jay Ajayi. Isn't that crazy when you really do think about it? Isn't that really crazy? Dallas Goedert is back this week. All right, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for telling me about that, because I didn't know if he was going to return either. So, yeah. All right. So we tackled 3 of the 4 teams, and of course we saved the best for last. And that is, oh wait, did I do something? Nah. All right, I'll get into the Eagles versus Dallas preview. I'll do that another time. We spent a lot of time talking about the Eagles. All right, and now let's get into the final team, the elephant in the room, if you will, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies. My question to you, of course, we can go back to the end of the season press conferences that Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski had. And I want to go into Matt Gelb's interview piece that he did with that he ended up doing with John Middleton. And he did a really, really good job. And I actually took away some positives from that. But do we trust Dave Dombrowski? I know some people are going to say no. I know some people are still going to say yes. But how do we feel about that? How do we feel about Dave Dombrowski this offseason? Do we think that he's going to make this team better? Do we think that bringing back the whole entire coaching staff was the right move or the wrong move? I'm not so keen about that. I don't think that that was the right move at all. Do we think that he's going to go after a guy like Juan Soto? Or is he going to go for a Jurickson Profar and try to get some other really nice key pieces and maybe try to be cute and trade Brandon Marsh and guys like maybe Alec Bohm? Do we trust Dave Dombrowski is the question that I have. Please comment down below and tell me why. Please. Alex Bregman says Den Brew. Bregman, I thought that he opted in. I thought that he opted into his contract. I have to make sure that I look into that. But do we trust Dave Dombrowski to make this team better during this offseason? Is my question to you. Please let me know down below why you think the way that you do. Right now, I don't trust the Phillies. I don't trust the Phillies, and I'm so happy that baseball season is done. I had a lot of fun during baseball season. I'm not going to lie. You know, hanging out with you guys and calling these games, but it ended so badly. And I am really worried about them making the same sort of mistakes next year. I am. And even if they go after a guy like Juan Soto, you look at what the Sixers did with Paul George, you're going to have to try to find ways to be creative and get depth. Now, we can argue that the Sixers actually get depth. I thought that they did. Right now, I'm not really looking so good with that statement. Part of it, obviously, is because the superstars are not playing all together, and at least 2 out of the 3 of them have been out for each game for the most part. But I think that you're just going to have to get more than Juan Soto, and I don't even think that Juan Soto is even going to come to Philadelphia. It would be so stupid for the New York Yankees to just let this guy go. They got to give him all the money in the world. And I will be so mad. There is a world where he goes to the Mets and where he does go to the Dodgers. And I'd be so angry about that. I'd be so mad. So, I don't know. I don't know what the heck I expect from Dave Dombrowski this offseason. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I want baseball players. I want ballers. I want guys that can play small ball. I want guys that actually have really good approaches when there's 2 strikes on them. That's what I've wanted for a while, and I didn't get that. Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas were supposed to be those guys, and they failed. And Bryson Stott was supposed to be another one of those guys, and he had a very disappointing season. We all know how that ended up going. So I don't trust Dave. And Dave, I've been very tough on Dave because I know that he's a very, very smart guy. And with the way that things have been going as of now, I just don't have trust just because of how things ended for the last 2 seasons. He has to earn my trust back. I'm not saying fire him. I'm just saying, damn, this is his last offseason, and if he gives you an F this offseason, then by all means, bye-bye. I'm getting there now. But this is his last chance. Strike 3, then he's gone for me. What do I define as a good offseason for the Phillies? Great question. I'd find them to go after some really good glue guys to surround Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, and Nick Castellanos with. I'm fine with them keeping Casty. If they do go after Juan Soto, then you're going to have to get rid of Nick Castellanos. That's just the truth, because that's just not going to work out financially, and you're going to have to be creative about that. I don't know what JT Realmuto's market is. I don't think that it's really high at all whatsoever, even though he's a name around the league. And maybe there's a way that Dave can sort of get creative with that. But even if you lose JT, there's not a lot of good catchers out there. I'm just saying. So, I don't know. I don't know where they go. I'd be fine with them running the bullpen back, honestly, even though they had a really, really bad NLDS. They were lights out for the most part. Maybe not Estevez. Estevez, it didn't look like that when he came over from the trade deadline, it didn't look like he was going to, be a dominant pitcher out there. Would I be upset the Phillies let him go? No. Would I bring him back and try it again? Maybe. But other than that, I'm fine with them bringing back Jeff Hoffman. I'm fine with them bringing back Matt Strahm, Orion Kerkering. I'm willing to run that back because that was just unexpected to me. I did not expect that to be a collapse. I did not expect that to be a failure at the very end. Maybe you try to move on from Jose Alvarado. I'd be fine with that. I know that the fans did not like Jose Alvarado, a lot of them, over the last 2 years or so. But I don't know. I'd have to think a little bit more about that. All right. Let's get to the comments about that. And then we'll go into this piece that I wanted to read a little bit. You can go and take care and take Orr with him. Bregman is a free agent. Not the way I wanted the Phillies season to end. As long as Soto doesn't go to the Mets or the Dodgers, dude. Like, just imagine. I don't even want to imagine. Soto kind of turned me off with his fielding in the World Series, says Denbrew. Yes, I understand. But he still is a top 5 player right now. I get it. I understand. We can't really have it both ways. If the Dodgers go on Soto, just hand him the trophy. If he goes to the Mets, I'm going to be super mad, says David. Told you about Rojas 2 years ago. When did Dombrowski make a real trade when the deadline was here? Marsh, Pache, Carlos, and that. We're not going to call anybody that word. A guy that did not have a good time with the Phillies from Baltimore, Austin Hayes. Yeah, he hasn't really done much at the trade deadline, but I'm talking about the offseason. I'm talking strictly about the offseason. I know that the trade deadline's a part of it too, but right now I'm focused on the offseason. And if Dave, the bottom line is that if Dave does not have a good offseason, then I'm saying goodbye. I'm saying goodbye to Dave Dombrowski, and I'm not settling for mediocrity anymore. I expected the World Series ring, so this seat's starting to get a little bit hot for me. All right, last and certainly not least, let me share my screen with you because I wanted to there was an article that was written on The Athletic, delivered, of course, by Matt Gelb, who does a really good job at covering the Phillies on The Athletic. And he had a sit-down interview with John Middleton. And I thought that there were some interesting quotes that I sort of wanted to dissect really quickly. And I just wanted to, give my thoughts about that. So let's do that right now. Let's share my screen. Let's do this. Okay. So let me know if you guys can see this. I'm going to zoom in really quickly. So here's something that I thought was interesting. I have to scroll down really quickly. Where is it? How confident are you? This was the question that Matt Gelb asked. Are you that your people have the answers internally and possibly externally to facilitate these changes and build a better club? John then said, from the standpoint of internal work, there's a clear understanding and agreement among all of the hierarchy, the front office people, the coaching staff, that collectively we've got to be more forceful in getting players to address their areas of weaknesses. Some of the solutions to what we need to do have to come from the outside, be it a free agent or a trade. That process is just starting. I don't know how those dominoes are going to fall, but we certainly have ideas, and everybody's pushing. Dave is the guy who's leading the charge there. You have to be creative. We have to be willing to think about things that we maybe weren't willing to think about those last two off seasons. And that quote right there is something that sort of stood out to me. So it seems like that they are trying to push for things, but I really like how John is not just sitting down. Like, he's having these conversations with the president of baseball ops, with Sam Fold as well, out there too. And they're trying to search for what's out there. So I'm sort of happy to hear that the owner is not taking a back seat on this, and he's really trying to hold everybody accountable. That's something that I think that is interesting for sure. Where there was another one that I really wanted to read. Dave is on top of that now. Where is it? Where is it, man? There was one other thing that I liked, that I really, really liked. And I'm trying to look for it here in this article. I want to scroll up real quick. Sorry, close your eyes for a second. I read that. Where was it? I should have had a marker for this. Here it is. The other thing is, it's not enough to say, well, that's baseball. That's just an excuse for not having to really think about what went right, what went wrong, and what you can do to right the wrongs. And I like that. I was talking to Dave about it. I said, quote, Dave, I have this expression. He goes, I hate that expression more than any other expression in baseball, because it allows you to think anything you want to think. Oh, we didn't do well? Well, that's baseball. I'm 1 for 20. Well, that's baseball. And then he goes on to say we need to learn from the NLDS loss to the New York Mets. And I think some old dogs need to learn new tricks And guess who he's calling out right there? Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, and all the vets that struggled. I love that quote. That put a little smile on my face. It did. He hates the expression, "that's baseball." That tells me everything that I needed to know about John Middleton, and that is that he's not willing to sit still, and he's willing to take action for his, or accountability for his actions. He's not just going to let this fly by the seat of his pants. He says, I think some of the old dogs need to learn new tricks. That's one of my favorite quotes from this whole thing. I know by the time you get to the majors, and particularly by the time you're a veteran, you've got a style. It's yours. But I'm going to remind the guys in spring training of two stories. And then he goes further into it about Roy Halladay. And, you should definitely look into this. Anyhow, it was a very, very well-written article by Matt Gelb. Really, just go check it out. It's posted on the New York Times, so you should be able to check it out through there. But very, very well done, and I'm really happy that they got this interview over with. And I sort of leave this podcast with a little bit of optimism, in a sense, because I don't think that they are going to stay still. The question is everybody going to be on the same page, and are they going to make the right moves? That's my question, and I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. All right, I am going to provide some timestamps, and we're going to break down where each section was. First, we talked about the Flyers. Then we talked about the Sixers. Then we got into Eagles, and then we ended things with the Phillies. And I think that was a very good state of Philadelphia sports pod that I feel like I got everything out that I wanted to say. I really do. I really feel that way. If you are new to the channel, make sure you guys hit the thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button as well, and turn on those notification bell icons too, and that way you'll know when we go live. I love you all so, so much. Again, I want to remind you all that I will not be on tomorrow night. I'm going to be doing Villanova Wildcats ice hockey. I'm going to be doing the play-by-play. You can go check out the link in the community tab. And I hope that you're there to join me. 7:45 is when puck drop begins, and I'm really excited to be back on the call with my broadcasting partner, Tom Hill, with Rival Sports Media. All right, I will see you guys next on Sunday. I might post a couple of pods and a couple of shorts in between. Be on the lookout for all those. Make sure that your notification bell icons are turned on. And, Sunday we got Eagles, and then we got Sixers. That's all I'm going to say about that. So we got Eagles, and then we got Sixers, okay? Be on the lookout, though, for something on Sunday, too, that might throw you off in a good way. So, all right, any last comments before I go? I'll see you Sunday for the Birds, JJ. Sorry, I had a phone call. I just had to get right back. Middleton is trusting an idiot. Yeah, man. All right. I love you all, and I will catch you all in the next one. Let me know your thoughts down below on all four of these teams, okay? Should John Tortorella get fired? Do you think that he's the right coach for this rebuild that the Flyers are having? Can the Eagles win a playoff game with Nick Sirianni at the helm? Do we trust Dave Dombrowski or not with the Philadelphia Phillies? And for the Philadelphia 76ers, are we going to get the big three playing a lot of games? Lots of questions surrounding all four of these teams. All right, love you all to death. I will catch you all on the next one. Lila Tov, and good night.